when an entity is having support from the county and not having to pay anything for that support, for all of a sudden you have to pay out of the taxpayers' money people to do what you used to get for free. Do you have any clue why you did this? I mean, I don't see betterment happening. I'm just confused. Is anybody else in here confused about that?
Yes.
I mean, that's all I gotta say. I mean, I watched it when it happened. I saw the first year of mistakes, when employees weren't getting properly paid, whatnot. I'm just confused how you're managing the money. Mr. Walder, again, is there anybody that audits what they're doing?
Well, there, this commission does audit per se certain transactions.
Mm-hmm.
So things like certifying revenue, things like testing the appropriations against that certified revenue.
Mm-hmm.
We continue to do that function because the budget commission exists for all county entities, regardless of whether they're self-fiscal or not. We do it for the schools, we do it for Geauga Trumbull Solid Waste, as well as the park. The parks are audited every other year by the state auditor. My office is audited every year by the state auditor. But as we've learned from history, the state auditor's job is different than the county auditor's job. He's looking at samples, I'm looking at every transaction. So he typically does a very low frequency sample of transactions and vets those against the standard. I like to think our role is to check every single transaction. Not that you don't make mistakes, but you get more eyes on more transactions. And the goal is to prevent a problem before it becomes a nightmare.
But just to be clear, this commission does not keep track of what they're specifically spending money on. So whether they're spending money for a lawful purpose, whether they're spending money appropriately, we don't have insight into that. We just have insight into their budgeting, their total, how much money's coming in, how much is going out, how much money they have. They went from having county oversight of what they were spending their money on to now it's their internal oversight.
That, from a taxpayer point of view, that doesn't seem appropriate. By law, are they allowed to pull their money and manage their own money?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep. The separation was lawfully done, and it was their prerogative to do it. The timing of when it happened was totally up to them. But the responsibility is theirs as well. So, yes, to answer your question, it's lawful.
Anybody else? Please state your name.
I'm Shelley Chernin. I want to talk a minute about openness and transparency, and first by thanking the Budget Commission for opening this meeting up for public comment now. It's very much appreciated. We are not permitted to make public comment at the Geauga Park District meetings. I think if we were, maybe we would have caught some of this sooner. And so I want to talk about when I first became aware that maybe there were fiscal problems of some sort in January when some amendments were tabled at a park board meeting with no discussion. These were some were budget amendments, I think. They were tabled. There was absolutely no discussion at the park board meeting about why these amendments were being tabled. So I made a public records request and asked for whatever communications there within the park district there were about the tabling of the amendments. And primarily what I got back were a series of emails, scheduling meetings with various department heads and actually one, maybe two of the park commissioners who were here participating in those meetings, but there was nothing of substance in the public records request that I got, as if nothing of substance is put in writing. So I don't understand when the work of the park district of substance happens. It doesn't happen on paper. It doesn't happen in the public meetings. When was there a discussion with the commissioners about tabling these budgetary amendments? Did that happen serially with each commissioner over the telephone? I don't know. Did it happen in executive session, which wouldn't be an appropriate subject for executive session? But I don't know when the business of the park district is happening. It's very disturbing as a member of the public, and quite honestly, when there's no transparency, when we can't see the working of a public agency, we start to suspect corruption. I mean, I hate to say that, but we can't see what's going on. And I find that very disturbing.
Of course.
I just want to say that the two previous fiscal officers that we've had since we split, you know, they had a certain way of doing things, and we've, you know, now that I've had some time in this role to like reevaluate and look closer at the budget, and I want to say that John, you know, we work closely with John and Deputy Director Matt McHugh, and we do work very closely to make sure that we're being fiscally responsible, and, you know, we are going to meet our obligations in '24. We've never not met our obligations, and, you know, we're doing our best to make sure that, you know, we make cuts in the budget or whatever needs to be done to be fiscally responsible.
Dawn, I just was kind of wondering, so the first couple months this year, you guys had a couple layoffs, and you had a paving project that you canceled. Was that done because you had cash flow problems? So you could have afforded to pay for those people and pay for that paving project the first quarter?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Shelley, to your point, I watch some of their meetings, because I think you folks record them and post them. You know, the business of public entities is supposed to be done in public. Obviously, the business of the park district's not conducted in public, because there's barely any discussion. It's a scripted event, most of the board meetings I've seen. So I share your frustration as a taxpayer. I would tell you as a commission member, you know, there's only so much we can do. I know Dawn's worked for the park district for a long time. I know she does a good job. But again, you know, she's a little bit down the pyramid here, so but you know, we have tried to work with them to solve these issues. I think we solved a couple big issues today, so, you know, hopefully, you know, our staff can work with Dawn and make sure that we don't have the problems we've had. But I know how long have you been there, Dawn?
10 years.
Yeah, so I know our staff has a good relationship with you, and
Yeah.
And I know the last couple fiscal officers, you know, didn't have as nice as a disposition as you. I think that's a nice way of putting it. So
Yeah, I think.
So I'm optimistic that it will improve.
I think one frustration that we have on our side is because there is, and to the park district's credit, I accept that there's no law that says they have to have public comment. There's no law that says we have to have public comment. But we've chosen to do that, and most of the other parks, if not all, in the state have chosen to do that. So all of the other ones. So I guess, you know, I think we see when things start to become mysterious, we get the calls. I mean, Tammy and Kristen get the calls because they're seeing the paper transaction. So, you know, unfortunately, they're kind of being put in the middle. And I don't want that to happen, and that's oftentimes where relationships fall apart, because we're trying to broker your message, but we shouldn't be doing that. You should be giving your message. And so, but because we tend to answer people's questions, they get asked, well, what's going on? So all they can tell is what we see, and that's not always accurate, you know? And so I guess I will encourage the park, it actually will behoove you in the long run